generations who lost their country and the generations who will win it back. Pig yellow! Pig yellow!
I think about his life. And for some reason, every time he saw me, he looked genuinely happy. He showed up in the snow, he showed up in the rain, he showed up year after year, month after month, week after week, because he believed Tibet was worth fighting for. And now he can't. So the question is, will we? If Lobga was willing to give everything for Tibet, surely each of us can give something. That is how we honor his sacrifice and all those who risk everything for the protection of the Tibetan nation. That is how we keep his and their spirit alive. And that is how one day Tibet will be free. Free Tibet! Free Tibet! Free Tibet! Tibet will be free! And Lobga and some of his closest friends were among the very first Tibetans I got to know there. One of the first actions we worked on together was commemorating the 100th anniversary of the 13th Dalai Lama's 1913 proclamation of Tibetan independence. That day was one of pride. We gathered outside the Chinese consulate with balloons, Tibetan songs, beating drums and political theatre, celebrating Tibetan independence. Lobga's friends, many of them former political prisoners, unfurled a banner from the building generation. Chinese shall be happy in China, and Tibetans shall be happy in Tibet. China hated it because it challenged the lie that Tibet has always been a part of China. It was history that they could not erase. Tibetans from every generation stood in defiance. It was victory. And every year after that, whether it was snowing, raining, or freezing cold, Lobga and his friends were always there on February 13th, Tibetan Independence Day. They never stopped showing up. That was who Lobga Rangzen was. He was always present. Whether it was calling for the release of political prisoners, defending our language and culture, or just demanding Tibet's independence, he was there. He was a devoted Rangzenba. But that's not the first thing I think about when I think of Lobga Rangzen. I think about his smile. I think about his laugh. And for some reason, every time he saw me, he looked genuinely happy. He would walk straight over to me, pat me in the arm, grab both of his hands in my hands, and hold them for what sounded like forever. It wasn't one of those quick handshakes. It was warm. It was real. He had this way of making you feel like he mattered. The first thing he would ask me was, how is your father? And then he would update me on the latest news of New York. Sometimes he'd send me voice messages asking me where I disappeared to. Other times he'd send me completely random videos of himself dressed up in costumes or sitting somewhere eating biryani. He had this mischievous sense of humor. He loved to laugh. He loved life. And a friend later told me that biryani was the last meal he ate before he self-immolated. When I heard that, I laughed. And then I cried. Because somehow it was so Lobga. He was someone. On July 3rd, I woke up to messages from friends. One simply said, "It's Lobga." Another wrote, "I wanted to check on you. I know how much he cared about you and how much you cared about him." I had no idea what I was about to see. But before I even opened social media, I found myself shaking, chanting, "No, no, no." And then I opened Instagram and I saw it. Lobga, engulfed in flames. He was standing firm. He didn't waver. I watched for a brief moment, and there was a strange stillness in me. Then grief hit, anger and pain, and I cried and cried. But then I went into action, because I knew this was a deliberate act. One he had reached with absolute conviction. This was a political act, a final call for Tibetans to unite for independence, and for the United Nations to do their job and hold China to account. Because that's what Lobga would have wanted. It was instinct, and it wasn't just me. That day, you and thousands of Tibetans and supporters across the world took to the streets. I began seeing people share posts on social media that had been posted months or years ago about China's colonial boarding schools and the erasure law. Young Tibetans and elders alike started reading, sharing, and talking about these issues. Lobga Rangzen woke people up. He forced us to confront what was happening. He refused to let us become comfortable in the silence that China wants to impose. Many Tibetans are afraid to protest, afraid to attend events, afraid to speak publicly, and those fears are real. China threatens visas, intimidates families inside Tibet, and punishes those who speak out. But if fear silences all of us, then we risk losing everything that we love and are trying to protect: our identity, our culture, and our homeland. Today, China wants the world to believe that Lobga took his life extraordinary acts of resistance. But we know better. Every Tibetan who self-immolated left a message. They called for Tibetan independence. They called for the protection of our language and culture. They called for the release of the Panchen Lama. They called for the long life of His Holiness the Dalai Lama and for his return to Tibet. These were not random acts. They were deliberate acts of political resistance. And Lobga's message was no different. By choosing the doorsteps of the United Nations, he was asking the world's highest human rights institution one simple question. Where are you? Where are you when 1 million Tibetan children are separated from their families? Where are you while our language is being erased? Where are you while China introduces laws designed to eliminate Tibetan identity? Volker Turk, the UN High Commissioner for Human Rights, called on China to repeal this new erasure law before it came into place. Yet he has not said a single word about China's colonial boarding schools, the very system driving the forced assimilation. China's last UN review on children's rights was in 2013. More than a decade later, around 1 million Tibetan children have been separated from their families. How has the United Nations allowed this to happen? We must demand better, and we must demand it ferociously. Children are being separated from their families, language, culture, and religion, causing psychological harm. We must urge Volker Turk to break his silence on colonial boarding schools. His silence must end today. And I know many of you feel frustrated. I do too. It feels like the United Nations is useless. It feels like it's rigged. It seems like governments care more about trade than human rights. It's a painful reality. Sometimes it feels like China is winning. But whenever I begin to think that, I remind myself of something. China isn't always winning. China desperately wants legitimacy. If the United Nations didn't matter, China wouldn't spend so much time, money, and effort trying to shape it or influence it. If our voices didn't matter, China wouldn't spend billions trying to shape the perception on Tibet. If our campaigns didn't matter, China wouldn't pressure governments to stay silent. If Lobga's message didn't matter, they wouldn't work so hard to erase it. China understands the power of public opinion, and we must too. That is why we cannot allow ourselves to give up, to not join protests, to not lobby and engage with our local MPs here in the UK, to not sign a petition. We cannot live in silence, cannot be in despair. We must act. We must protect our identity and our story. And most importantly, we cannot allow ourselves to be fooled by China's increasingly sophisticated Chinese propaganda. I want to give a warning to the world, and to even our own Tibetan people living in exile. Don't mistake carefully curated images on social media for reality. China is spending billions to shape how the world sees Tibet. And since they control all the access to Tibet, and they keep the global media out, and they brutally punish Tibetans who try to share any information, then you can be sure the information you are seeing is what they want you to see. Don't be fooled like Dechin Shuk, an exiled Tibetan living in Switzerland, praising Beijing's colonial boarding schools or claiming Tibetans are flourishing under China. They'll tell you Tibet has never been better than it is now. They'll show you new roads, taller buildings, more schools, higher GDP. But every new highway comes with forced resettlement. Every new school comes with mandated Chinese-only curriculum. They're not developing Tibet, they're replacing it. The progress they hail comes at a price of freedom inside Tibet. We know that freedom and independence, we know what freedom and independence looks like. We know what freedom and independence feels like. It is in our bones and in every Tibetan's heart. Yes, we need to see our homeland. Yes, we need to stay connected to our families. Yes, we need our children to know where they came from. But visiting Tibet is not enough. Access to Tibet is important, but we must never confuse access to Tibet with true freedom. Lobga knew what was at stake. His final act was not only a protest against China, it was a message to us, a warning that time is running out. Don't give up on Tibet's right to independence. So today I ask every one of you, what will you do for Tibet? Maybe you can't attend every protest. Maybe you worry about your family inside. Maybe work, maybe children, or life make activism difficult. I understand. But every one of us can do something. We can educate, we can organize, we can create, we can donate, we can campaign, we can vote, we can sign a petition, we can speak out. Because Lobga showed up. He showed up in the snow, he showed up in the rain, he showed up year after year, month after month, week after week, because he believed Tibet was worth fighting for. And now he can't. So the question is, will we? If Lobga was willing to give everything for Tibet, surely each of us can give something. That is how we honor his sacrifice and all those who risk everything for the protection of the Tibetan nation. That is how we keep his and their spirit alive. And that is how one day Tibet will be free. Free Tibet! Free Tibet! Free Tibet! Tibet will be! Tibet will be! Shame on! Shame on! Shame on! Justice for! Justice for! Justice for! Lobga Rangzen died for! Lobga Rangzen died for! Lobga Rangzen died for! Shame on! Shame on! Shame on! Long live! Long live! Long live! Long live! Thank you.
Today marks 1 month since Lobsang Palden dressed himself in his chuba, doused himself in gasoline, lit a lighter and set himself on fire, standing next to the Tibetan flag as his arms outstretched. He was not the only one. More than 170 Tibetans have laid down their lives, setting themselves on fire as they thought there was no better way to bring attention to the Tibetan cause. Lobga's last words asked us not to mourn him, not to shed a tear or to sit in silence. He asked us to continue Tibet's struggle, not to forget our roots and to carry on the fight, wherever we may be. His last words did not ask for a grand ceremony in his name, but rather to stay strong and to continue to fight for our country, our motherland, because as Lobga said, the lack of independence is the root of all of our problems. So as we gather here today, not just as Tibetans, but as a community, as brothers and sisters, as a people, I have one thing to say. We do not depend on our country, but our country depends on us. While we may not rely on Tibet as we study or work in a blessed country far, far away from Chinese oppression, our country depends on us to keep the struggle alive. Our independence and our freedom will never be granted to us in a day. Yet if we continue to fight, to keep the hope of every Tibetan in Tibet, every Tibetan who gave their life to our cause, and every Tibetan scattered across the globe, then one day we will watch the Tibetan flag raised once again in our homeland. Pögelo! Pögelo! Pögelo!
And exactly 1 month ago, Pawo Lobga Rangzen turned on his Facebook live stream, marched into the middle of the street in front of the UN headquarters in New York, raised the Tibetan national flag, and set his body on fire. He became one of over 170 Tibetans who have driven to self-immolation to protest China's illegal occupation of our homeland. We did it to shut down business as usual and to force the world to look at China's genocide in Tibet. Since then, people have asked us why we risked our future, my career, to get arrested. Well, all I have to say is some hours in jail in the relative safety of New York is nothing compared to the sacrifice of Logga Rangzen. It's nothing compared to the daily terror that nearly 8 million Tibetans endure every single day under Chinese colonial rule. The Chinese government has created a situation so unimaginable that 170 Tibetans have resorted to self-immolation to make their voices heard. And now the Chinese government has enacted a law, the Ethnic Unity and Progress Law, which by every measure makes it a crime to be a Tibetan inside Tibet. Pawo Lobga Rangzen's self-immolation came just one day after the law was enacted. Before self-immolating, Pawo Lobga Rangzen left a final video message. He said, "I don't want you to mourn for me. I want you to continue the struggle for Tibetan independence." From his upbringing in Tibet to his very last breath in front of the United Nations in New York, Pawo Lobga Rangzen spent his entire lifetime fighting for a free Tibet. He died on July 2nd, but his fight will not end in death. Let us rather remember how he lived with boundless generosity, unwavering simshu, and a fierce, fierce commitment to a free and independent Tibet. We must demand that the United Nations fulfill its moral duty to act. But if history has taught us anything, it's that global institutions will not deliver our freedom for us. That responsibility starts right here with us. So to every young person standing here today, this is our moment. We are going to be the bridge between the generations who lost their country and the generations who will win it back. Every day, do something for Tibet. Step out of your comfort zone. Join that chapter meeting. Show up at that protest. Even talk to one person about Tibet every day. And keep doing it until Tibet is free. Pig yellow! Pig yellow! Pig yellow! Thank you so much.
아니 드링 안도 데다 좀사 사자데 내가 지금 쉬고 차대 요래 인지 슝게데 실린 슈사 안 실린 레우 아니 맞도 직 디사디야 맞지 아니 더 자마지 슝자데라 좀 되요래 아니 맞도데 드링 좀 고야 되니 돈다 니 자기도 삼버텐지도 당보디 단다 파워 로가 랑젠라 로산 판텔라 고난지 베템바 첩수 돈다 베베 라완 된다 디치도 아니 랑르 메시 피니 아니 다와지 코에 니마데레 아니 디라 만주 참마데 좀니 아니 콩라 규지 줘야다 거기 시점 아니 만주지 강투도 말한도 지고야다 아니 당신 권나라 아니 빙자다 이제 망부 주요래 사주 담아달라 콘솔라 만조 코딩 소중하니 아니 동생님께 지야디 개심보 쇼주 동도 찍디지 아니바디 다 나와 찍다 니마 찍 도고래 세상나랑도 돼 도바상마데 좀니 아니 학바디 인지 룸발라다 파워 로가 랑젠라 메세 땅베 제라 아니 가랑도 돼 레고 마메 통고 있나다 차춤보 있나다 쉬윙고 있나다 dunzu tangpo da, dunzu sasamji jeyore. Di jeyore de ngantu samade debakande deyare vesana tawani deyamare. Ngaramzo hili pebacho pela nune utu da tabla meni. Ani pela ranglo mesi kena ngabdin hasi tang yore. Da kununzo peta dia tanda Pawo Lobga Rangzen ki peta tan do yore. Ngaramzo pela rawan gudu da. 아니 대한나시 캠브는 보지 다 별라 집중나로나 아니 알아서 배봤어 팀대시 쇼세 대 별라대 참마 지구지경래 딘데인데 알아서 오네 깔래자고 요래 알아서 겐기고 요래 민노래 노래라 랭게지모 요래 삼바텐지도 알아서 오네 잠분노라 매베 우티 오네 진짜 가서 정거 치고 딘데지 요래 대한나시 알아서 센주에 나라 아니 전주 마다와 나랑서 배바 차 대요래 아니 나랑서 다다 배바 판다다 차 대요래 mira gemba to une kule shore kyo yore so mamba tang yore imbe na tang ni lo zeti ngaranzo moumba mira shomba dunzo kande yu mangdo nganzo la ra le yore ngaranzo chidin che yo mare ngaranzo japsi ja yo mare ngaranzo hapa to puzo ne pyoka jabeda susu nangla ani ko phebe ke dola chale nayada dusu jimichi jogu yore dile chebana ku shejang nani jinga zo du ku yore shambang zo de dawa jing zi zom dijela jayawa chi chibana zawni di mare tanda nyeja tembu boche tanda la shu yore ani mimang jala mambo pyoku yore ja pyodu kosa jo kalsungu do sana ni ngara roba nang shwa chanzo ngara japto chi shwa dire sungu di ngarang changmala kogu yore konangzo tanda kosa jo sunge jingni do ko mare ngazu changmala kogu yore ngaru changmala miri more lengge yore ngarangzo pyoki lenda sanamdo pyoki kanyo di se medui mojuni ngazo ji laga che kogu yore mende nye che tugomendo di laga di komkare di laga di payu rese lapshana zawani ngazo le jumdele do mare kyanaji khene chige amana do mare ngazu changma pyoji che do kala je kogu yore mende pelo yebe phabazo kha yamare sumbasi degara re kachina pelo jami dhamata chigo yore tasu ngazu changma de pama pinja mamoji pelo yore pelo do yamare nija tanda chinda dimbanala jami mashu chungi ani leje dinda pela wangyu dosa pela ta kunji kharchigo sana pela tanda kunangzo tanda ji miru timji ani di timir di tita chieda nimangzo chungdu kongeda dinde chigora ta dilamzu de zenjole yobazo dongni chigora narangzo pela doya mundwa kaji doya yomare Xi Jinping dani pela chingsoa tanda jami unanzu chebe pinji shuji jenze 단 예자라 된날 해서 배고와 아니 배면 구쇼 망보지 다 배바 이나다 같이 재미 남배 구쇼 나라 같이 나오지도 됐어 진짜 팀랑기도 와 나랑도 정말 고치 와서 재미 카드 짜야지 내려 요 말에 나랑도 칸반을 지니 자장을 계시셔야지 내려 버려 계시 시험을 조선 땅고래 뒤조 땅고래 레우는 없이 저고래 자장을 된다 손에 계시 시도 그래 나도 생각 개인적으로 적게 주고요래. 적게 주면은 생수 파는 거래. 드리마나 대 저도 개인도 신경도 키고요래. 빼야 버려. 나라 드는 깨지지 셔도 치사. 나기지 셔 신기 말해. 이면은 예지 셔가 쳐나 고소를 생수 파도 그래. 지금 안에 깨지 셔가 망고요래. 진짜 dinden도 나도 참마 오늘 도자 찍지 되니 오늘 달려고 망자 빼고도 레고라 냠슈 망자 지고도 나라서 낭리 되게 깨져만 부셔야 되지 나서 편 통도 나라서 카드 짜야지 잠나 마셔 쇼라 카드 짜기는 되기도 나라서 망고 카드 짝대는 뒤져 돌아래 로선 돌아래 아니 펜지 맞춰 봐야 돼 그러면 샤바 강구 좀 말. 인생 여보 송다 나도 참마 이네 후다바다 저기 개심을 해서 맞지 댕기도 심시 자원이 차요 말에 나서 심시 작방은 나도 가야 된다디 세이 말에 별로 별로 너무 투잡디 단달로 땅요 말다 고소 우도미 아니 라는 메세 더가 자는 좀 못해 땅 말에 땅 알아서 돼 라는 메시데 땅 보는 데 이니 내우 빼빼 가서 냄새 제 개심 말에 나랑도 중가 이나다 로사이나 바바 십자 맞게 좀 그래 게임을 쇼스나 바바데 니님도 요 말에 소소소소 저당으로 와. 니 배치면 된다라니 폐마 가르쳐요. 님주 가르쳐요. 도선 가르쳤다니요. 소소소 저당으로 와. 나랑도 상마 오늘 배봐 샤라 동기 집에 보내장gen해. 나도 현재 강한테 세메디 나랑도 상마 후다바다 제디 계시모래. 나랑 정말 30달러는 맞아로나 들은 아이지 슈라 라고요. 여러분 이제 슈게 배고 로지 항상하고 생활해. 지금 국가 숨쉬니 young husband expectation to Tibet. 근데 workers was from India 디세면서 저한테 차대요. 이제 슈게 근데 지시 중재게 수가지 나요. 배 재미 채시해서 근데서 채시해서 라고요 재미라 채시해서 배도 재미 채시해서 근데서 라고요. 이제는 나도 지자지에 말아서 지게 자신나 배배 배도인 잡주지 뉴뉴로 같이 줘요래 미게마도 배배 로지 숨기요래 지게 미도도 이나 카마타 하나 이나 쉬마도 맞아 배배 로지도 마셔배나 기타도 마셔배나 고자하 고구마래 그래서 배배 로고라 지게 냠주 나게 뉴도에도 찍든지 디 이심 바래 근데 인디 말아서 장마대 좀으로와 아니 근데 말아서 오늘 배배 강연 마셔봐도 도사 지지치네 샴보치네 그것이 세점들도 오늘 섬에 샹이 아니 인지미지게 내가 제국도 깨진이도 she고도 내가 맞잖아 깨져서 손에 she도로 와 근데 지금 반대 지금 근데 삼성은 왜 가야라요 내가 지도하는 야고도 제가 근데 당가 깨져 뭐 버시라 she기네 대 오늘 고도 조준 거 된다 다른 배도 수도 했잖아 아니 genge게 다시라 아니 변하신데 Rangzen Loptuke, and it's on me, Dule, and the Dangashing there, Todin Lagutina Khan, you free chopa, free Tibet, some never chini, Tataman Lewu, the Ramp number of Pierre, Kalambo Yabu Junior. In the end, good to you do, Topato Macheroa, Chuchu Toma there. Was all Papa, sometimes. 지게를 대라 대대 야 중중중중들 책들을 토대 기도로와 디레서는 마대로 나와서가 미국 주의 가지나 나랑서 마셔야나 수지 그래 단다 지에 뒤로 받대래 캠브리지 공로 구주코니 배열 구주코지 배열래 대한시 회지 강연데 세요 말에 별라 미 망고지랑 메세탄 비어래 별라 재미 담아다 지구어 단 여자한테 하는 거라 대 잡아다 안 담으러 당기도와 재미 수지 라다 담아다 지구어 재미나다 메가 메시라 조선 쇼탄 비어래 세바사야 니께 맞좀 망거들 당겨.
It's a story of 170 acts of unbelievable bravery. It's a story of great sadness. But it is also a story of hope and determination, because many of you will know the story of the phoenix, where out of the ashes and death rose new life and new hope. And it is up to us to carry the torch of hope and to carry the torch of Tibetan identity and culture, as with all the ethnic minorities in occupied China, to keep that flame alive, to not make those heroes' sacrifice be in vain. Okay, number one, go and visit or write to your Member of Parliament. You can get the name of your MP by an internet search. They have surgeries 2 or 3 times a month. Go and talk to them or write to them. Tell them about why it's important not to kowtow to the Chinese Communist Party, as I'm afraid our current government is doing. Tell them why it's important not to give the Chinese Communists their mega embassy. 2, join a protest like this. 3, talk to friends and family. I'm delighted to see so many people here today, but we want to double or treble the number at protests. So talk to people, tell them why it's important to be here. And fourthly, you can sign an online petition. There is one that is about to do the rounds about the Ethnic Unity Act. Let us be clear, and I say this to our government and to our new Prime Minister: the Ethnic Unity Act from the CCP has nothing to do with ethnic unity. It has everything to do with ethnic cleansing, the destruction of the Tibetan identity, Tibetan culture, Tibetan language, Tibetan religion, and the same goes for the Uyghurs, and the same goes for the Southern Mongolians. So, to finish, today we are honouring 170 heroes. Remember, every one of you, remember the sacrifice for Tibet of these 170 heroes. Thank you.
To our Tibetan allies for bringing us together as a Uyghur, as Executive Director of Stop Uyghur Genocide, and as someone who knows personally that the Chinese Communist Party's repression does not stop at China's borders. And I make my personal tribute to all those who sacrificed their lives for the freedom of Tibet, for Uyghurs, for Southern Mongolians, for Hong Kongers, and for everyone who can live freely in this world. I would like to focus on this one specific issue, which is the so-called ethnic unity law. And we know the second day after the implementation of the law, June the 2nd, our brother Lobga Rangzen self-immolated. The so-called ethnic unity law is not about unity. It is about enforced conformity and the erasure of the language, faith, histories, and identity of Uyghurs, Tibetans, Southern Mongolians, and others. Most alarmingly, Article 63 claims authority over individuals and organizations outside China for vaguely defined acts that undermine ethnic unity. It directly threatens every dissident, journalist, activist, and exile who dares to speak the truth. Uyghurs and other Turkic communities in neighboring Kazakhstan already fear that Beijing will use this law and its economic influence to intensify pressure on them. This should warn Britain. When authoritarian laws across borders, no exile community is truly safe. Here in the UK, many of us already face surveillance, online harassment, intimidation, and pressure through family members in our homelands. Some are too frightened to attend protests to speak publicly. This is transnational repression, the CCP attempting to control people even after they have reached a democracy. That is why the government's approval of China's enormous new embassy at Royal Mint Court is so alarming. A court may have upheld the planning decision, but profound questions remain about national security, surveillance, and the safety of dissident communities. The largest Chinese embassy in Europe must not become its largest center for transnational repression. Today, thank you. Today we call on the British government to formally condemn the ethnic unity law, reject its extraterritorial claims, and make clear that Beijing's law have no authority over people exercising their freedoms in Britain. Use every remaining legal and political venue to reconsider the super embassy, placing national security and community safety above diplomatic convenience. Establish a national strategy against transnational repression with trusted reporting channels, trained police officers, and proper investigations into surveillance, threats, and intimidation. Work with Kazakhstan and other governments to protect at-risk communities from harassment, arbitrary detention, and forced return to China. Consult Uyghur, Tibetan, Hong Konger, Southern Mongolian, Chinese dissident, and the Taiwanese communities when shaping Britain's China policy. We did not come to Britain to remain silent under Beijing's shadow. We came because we believe that freedom, human dignity, and the rule of law would protect us. We ask the British government to prove that this belief is not misplaced. Our identity are not crimes. Our voices will not be silenced. Together, we will resist repression wherever it reaches. Thank you very much. Free Tibet! Free Tibet! Free Tibet! Free Tibet! Free Tibet! Free Tibet! Free Uyghurs! Free Uyghurs! Free Uyghurs! Free East Turkestan! Free East Turkestan! Free East Turkestan! Condemn ethnic unity law! Condemn ethnic unity law! Condemn ethnic unity law! Thank you.
Free Tibet! Xi Jinping!
Shame on you!
Xi Jinping!
Shame on you!
Xi Jinping!
Shame on you!
Religious freedom! Religious freedom! Language rights! Language rights! Educational rights! Educational rights! Down, down! No more! Down, down! No more! Long live! Long live! Long live! Tibetans in Tibet! Tibetans in Tibet! Tibetans in Tibet! Justice for! Justice for! Justice for! Justice for! Shame, shame! Shame, shame! Shame, shame! Shame, shame! Free Tibet! Free Tibet! Free Tibet! Tibetans in Tibet! Tibetans in Tibet!